Welcome to the UMBC Coaches Corner. I'm your host, Steve Levy. Of course, we always tape this right on the campus of UMBC with the cooperation of Mr. Bill Shoebridge and the wonderful students of the MCS 395 class that are occupying all the positions here this afternoon. Very pleased to welcome back to the set here, a year later, Amy Slade. And Amy, I'm going to apologize if I ask you a couple of the same questions I asked you last year, but something very different from what I asked you last year is you are a new mom, about 4.5 months in, and it's just so impressive to me how you have a 7-day-a-week job. Let's face it. How do you manage to balance your new motherhood with the high intensity pressure 7 days of a Division I head coaching job?
Yeah, I mean, it's great because I have 27, 28 girls who want to help all the time and who always want to be there and hold Addison. And if I am shooting, they want to hold her. If the defense is doing something, the attack is watching her. So it's really great because I have a lot of babysitters on hand. So it hasn't been too difficult. I'm a very high intensity, high motion type of person. So I need little to no rest. So it hasn't been a dramatic change. But it's been a great joy in both my husband and my life to be able to go home after, a tough loss or a great win. To have her there is really special.
Right, that's just awesome. Amy, I know I asked you this last year, but obviously, you were one of the top, collegiate players in the nation back in the early 2000s, early and mid 2000s, I should say. I don't want to put any age on you here. And I've always found it fascinating that someone that was a great player, how they translate that into being a great coach. I would think it can be very difficult when you play the game at such a high level to be able to relate that to, face it, young ladies that are not going to be able to play at that same level. How have you kind of dealt with that as you embarked upon your coaching career?
I think I realized at a very early stage in coaching that not every player is the same. And so when you're teaching these players, you have to realize that they all learn differently. Some learn by seeing, some learn by hearing, and you just have to adapt to what the player is best at. So for me, in the beginning, I figured out, these kids need and want coaching. And so that's exactly what I've tried to give them since, day one here at UMBC. And I hold them to the same high standards that I'd hold myself to.
Right.
And, they live up to those standards and they want to live up to those standards and they shouldn't be held to any lower standards. So, being a Tewaaraton Award winner it was great. I had teammates around me that supported me and helped me get through that. Now, being a coach on that other end of it, I'm holding my players to the same high standards that I held myself to and that I held my teammates to back in the day. Mm-hmm. So none of that really has changed. It's just kind of the game has evolved and the way I coach the game has kind of evolved with that.
Amy, I find lacrosse kind of like almost like basketball a little bit where there's so many different skills to learn, especially when you're just starting to teach the game. Catching, throwing, cradling, shooting, not to mention the athletic skills of playing defense and moving your feet and cutting and things of that nature. If you're coaching, someone that's just learning how to play the game, I mean, there's so many skills to learn. Where do you start?
I think the basics is obviously in the game of lacrosse, your feet always have to be moving. I think that's really important. So at a very young age, kids struggle to catch the ball on the move.
Right.
Our sticks are different than a men's stick, where a men's stick has a little bit more of a pocket, so the give isn't as great, and they can catch a little bit more on the move. But teaching these kids how to catch on the move is probably one of the more important things. Mm-hmm. If you don't get that at an early age, it's hard to get out of that habit. So right. I think for the first, couple of times you're working with a younger kid or an older kid for that matter, catching on the move and making sure they're understanding the mechanics of the stick and the mechanics of the body while they're in motion is extremely important.
Amy, we're taping this right at the very tail end of your season, but kind of give the fans a summary of how things have gone up to this point in the year.
I think every day we've progressed and gotten a little bit better, which is obviously a coach's dream. And I think we've been peaking at the right times. A little bit injury prone. Mm-hmm. We had 3 ACLs, a couple of feet, 2 concussions. All really hard things to come back from if you do come back from them. Obviously this season the ACLs won't be back, but I think the girls have done an excellent job of realizing, all right, this is my opportunity to step up. Let me, put my best foot forward and make sure that I'm doing what I can for the team. And I think they've all done that. And even though, you lose some of your top players, some of your starters, kids are just filling into those roles, and we've continued to roll with the ball and got some really big wins even without some of those players. So really pleased with the way that the season has been going. And then here on Saturday, hoping to close out with a win.
I want to mention that last semester, of course not this semester, we had several of your players in this very class. Unfortunately, one of them, Megan Flock, is one of the ones that got injured. And I felt bad for her, but I know how great a player she is, how important she is to your team, and just such a nice young lady that, kind of felt bad for her that unfortunately her senior season had to end in that fashion.
Certainly. But Megan has been just absolutely wonderful with finding a new role in the team. She's understood, okay, this is really disappointing. It's my senior year. I can't get it back. I won't get it back. But I can now change my role and continue to help these players develop. And she's done just that. And so I think that's made her job on this team extremely important, and it's really helped the people that have had to stand into that role really start to understand. They look to her for guidance, and she's been there every step of the way to help them out. So it's been really welcoming and really great.
Coach, lastly, you look at your roster and a lot of local players, Baltimore County, Hartford County. Is that by design, or is that just by accident, how that kind of came about?
I think a little bit of both. Maryland has fabulous lacrosse. So for me, I know there's a lot of kids that want to stay in state and they want to compete, and they're high-level players. So knowing the cost of tuition and knowing the players that we have here right in our backyard, it would really be a smart decision to go get that kid in my backyard,
right,
so they can come play in front of their parents and play in front of their and play in front of their fans, play in front of people they've played against in the past, right, as opposed to going halfway across the country to try to really have to convince someone to come to the state of Maryland. These kids love the state of Maryland. They love playing for their home crowd, and it's just been a great success with a lot of those players.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate the visit. We know you are literally running out of the studio to get home to be with Addison, so we appreciate your time. Best of luck the rest of the season, and hopefully we'll see you back here on the set again next spring.
Yep, great. Thank you.
Once again, the women's lacrosse team, you'll probably miss the rest of their action the rest of the year once you see this, but please check out all the action. You can follow it on umbcretrievers.com. For the UMBC Coach's Corner, I'm Steve Levy.